What's up, guys? So today I'm going to be quickly talking about the current state of Battlefield 2042 and my thoughts on it, because I haven't actually done a video on this yet and I feel like I sort of need to do one. It's sort of long overdue, to be honest, and with a recent patch 1.2 it's just released and the sort of underwhelming response that the community is sort of given from it, I feel like I sort of need to sort of talk about it and my sort of experience with it. Now, with this video as well, you might be able to hear my voice in the background. What I was doing was I was recording and I used NVIDIA Broadcast to basically cut out background noise, my PC fan, all that sort of mumbo jumbo, and I didn't realise it was actually set for my mic in to be my Arctis Pro wireless chat for mic on my headset, and it sounds horrendous. It just didn't. It's just horrible. And I did capture a few good gameplays and I was using that. It's been a bit of a pain. However, speaking on patch 1.2. The BSVM still ridiculous. That's what I'm using in this game. You're going to see it still outperforms nearly every single gun, especially with the high power rounds. I know with the close combat rounds at the nerf, where you just don't. I think it's you don't get as much accuracy or something to do with I can't remember the word, but something to do with when you first start firing. It's just not as accurate or something. And the nerf overall hasn't really done a whole lot, because everyone's just using high power rounds anyway. And I did actually unlock the high power extended mag rounds as well in this game. And the 30mm cannon as well on the Huron or Hannibal is still ridiculously overpowered. I think my teammate in this game got like 70 kills or so using it. It's still ridiculous, and I don't think the cooldown that it's got when it overheats it's just not enough for it. I mean, really what they need to do is just decrease the damage of the sort of blast radius of the rounds, because that is really where it sort of shines against infantry. But one of my biggest gripes with the game, which is a gameplay I had the other day where I was playing and I was just moaning and moaning and moaning, and that is where your team, I know you can swap squads, but your team, no one plays as medics. I think Falk is probably the best operator in the game. That's just personal opinion, but I think she is, because whenever you take damage you can quickly self-revive. And I think it was in patch 1.1, I don't think it was included in the notes, but now when you self-heal like you just seen there, it's super quick. It used to take maybe like 2 or 3 seconds, whereas now it's just a quick boom and that's it, and you ain't got to worry about it. Because I used to just like shoot the floor or shoot around or whatever. There you go, die to the 30mm cannon in a split second. Yeah, I think she's probably one of the best operators in the game. I don't think anyone plays as her enough. And especially when it comes to reviving, you get teammates that play as a med or a type of med, or your squad mates, and nobody revives, especially when the revive is quicker when you're playing as a medic class. I think that's probably one of the most irritating gripes I've got with this game, is when you're waiting to be revived and no one does it. And I do try to revive people a lot, and I think I do quite a bit of reviving, but it's not reciprocated. So that's one of my main issues. I feel like the operators still need hugely balancing out, and that's just my opinion, but I just think that it's just, I don't know, like the old Battlefield 4, Battlefield 5 system where you got 4 classes. It just makes everything far easier. The next thing, which I suppose is probably down to my skill level, is when you're playing and you're in a heli. Now, I get shot down within about 30 seconds of spawning in, and that's because as soon as I spawn in, people are locking on, boom, 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 all these rockets come firing at me. But when you are on the ground and there's an enemy heli about, nobody seems to do anything. Like, they just, nobody uses soft lambs, no one uses RPGs. I mean, I'm sort of guilty for not doing it, but I do run a medic, so I do run around reviving people, healing people up, so I do my part of the team. But yeah, I find that's more of like a sort of class issue again. Like, if you had the 4 classes, like of engineer, assault, support and medic, I just feel like it would be so much easier to sort of iron these issues out. Currently, yeah, whenever I fly in a heli, I get shot down within a split second, no matter how many ducks and weaves I do, how many times I repair, how many flares I use, I get shot down ridiculously quick. And with enemies, they seem to survive. Like in one of these games, I don't think it was this one, I think it's one of the other ones I recorded in, the enemy, I think he was top on their team, he went like 90 something in like maybe 1 or 2 deaths, if that. And my teammate, to be fair, this team that I'm playing against now didn't do too much when it came to sort of aerial control. And my teammate, he did die a few times, but he just kept spawning back, and he just kept absolutely decimating them. You can see there in the kill feed, he's running the Huron and just annihilating people. But yeah, I think one of my other issues is the weapon balancing in the game, especially like hit detection as well. I know it's sort of been fixed. I don't think it really happened in this game, but there's a few other games I've played in where I'm shooting with a BSVM single fire, and I am directly hitting people. There seems to be like little barriers, if that makes sense. Like, well, even then, I definitely should have hit him with like 2 bullets at least. But I have seen it on Jack Frag's done a video recently, and there was an item in the game, I think it was a rocket or something, that got destroyed, and where it shouldn't have been destroyable, it's just like a sort of static object, and it disappeared, and someone literally was just shooting them and they weren't dying because it was an invisible object. I feel like there's quite a few issues with this game like that. I just chucked a proximity grenade and it just completely disappeared. I don't know what that was about. That was a weird little bug. I think the other issue as well is with team balancing. Now, I played alright in this game. I mean, I done alright. I think I went like 39 and 16 or something like that. I should have done way better. I died so many times to such little crappy moments, but I feel like the team balancing just isn't enough. Now, it's another thing with you being able to change squads. Obviously, me and my squad mate there, J Rem or something, he done pretty well. The rest of our squad, with the other 2 members, they were just terrible. They were camping, they weren't playing the objective, they weren't playing properly, and you do find this 9 times out of 10 when you're playing 2042. Your team is either getting absolutely dominated, or you are dominating the other team. It's never really a sort of fair fight. In this game, it wasn't too bad. Me and my team out there were sort of dominating the game, and there was that guy just killed Dead Chicken Joe. He killed me quite a few times, and he was sweating out. And we did have quite a few good players on our team, good few players on their team, but overall, normally, it is a real one-sided battle, especially when it comes to breakthrough as well. I think, was it Renewal? Yeah, Renewal was one of the worst maps when it comes to it. I did a video, probably about a month ago now, where we were basically defending, and we were just holding them in their spawn, just absolutely spawn trapping them. There's nothing they could do. And again, I think it's just because we got lucky and we had a good team. But I do come on to try and record games, and just like time and time again, like I play a game, play next game, play next game, and like I'm not even doing that bad, but our team just gets absolutely decimated, and then that results in me getting a lot more deaths, and it's just sort of like a constant sort of theme. I feel like another issue is with the vehicles. I still feel like the hovercraft is ridiculously clunky to use, and I don't know if that's because I don't use a normal keyboard. I use a Razer Tartarus V2, which has an analog stick in it, because I've been a controller player for over a decade, and I've only been using K-Bam for like the last like maybe 3 or 4 months, and I've really come to terms with it, and I can play a lot better. I think Battlefield was probably one of the easier games to learn, but it was games like Call of Duty where I sort of struggled. Well, I've got like a much higher KD, and it's a bit harder to play, but I've gotten a bit better at that. But Vanguard's terrible, Warzone's terrible, Cold War's terrible. I'm banned from Modern Warfare 19. Even though I wasn't cheating, I sent these claims and everything off towards Activision using BBB, and they basically said that my account was banned for cheating, but they couldn't tell me what cheating. So essentially they could just ban me with no real reason. Now, the biggest issue, I think, of this game is the maps. Now, exposure isn't too bad, but, you know, having it as 24/7 just rinsed the hell out of it and made it very boring very quickly. The rest of the 2042 maps, even the reworked Kaleidoscope, I just couldn't get on with. I think they're horrific. I think the only one I can really get along with is maybe Manifest and Orbital. I think they play pretty well, and Breakthrough can be pretty decent on most of the maps, but I mean overall, like, Kaleidoscope is still one of the worst maps. I just can't get on with it. I'm not even going to bother making a video on the map. I played it once because it's now on as Exposure and Kaleidoscope, and just didn't enjoy it. I just couldn't get on with it at all. No matter what you do, you got someone flying around a Huron 30mm cannon, and they just absolutely wipe your team out. I think what I mentioned earlier was someone going on like a 90 something kill streak or whatever it was, that was on Kaleidoscope, and I think no matter what they do, the map's always going to be horrendous. I can't get over it. And Renewal, I don't think is really that bad, but I'm glad to hear that they are still going to be sort of reworking the whole structure of the map. I have seen some stuff on Twitter to do with the before and after, and it does look promising. I think that is probably one of the alright maps, but it could definitely use rework, and I'm glad it is getting it done. But the Battlefield 2, the Battlefield Portal maps, especially Bad Company 2 and Battlefield 3 maps, are just very amazing. I always normally play Exodus Conquest. I think they need to do like an Exodus breakthrough. That would make the game a hell of a lot better, because when we played 2042 Rush on these maps, they were just great. I think you obviously do get a few games where your team gets absolutely slapped. I mean, that's sort of a no-brainer. But overall, they were great. And, you know, I sort of grew up originally playing Battlefield Bad Company 1, so I grew up playing Bad Company 2, which was my next... That was the first Battlefield game I've properly, fully sweated out. And if they were to bring like the Vietnam maps or anything, which I can't imagine they would, but if they did, that'd be an absolute game changer. But I absolutely love the Portal maps. Not a huge fan of the 1900 ones. I don't really come across them too often, but the Battlefield 3 and Bad Company 2 maps are just great. They all seem to play fairly well as well, and sometimes they are one-sided, but most of the time they are pretty well balanced out, to be honest, and I think it's just the way that they were designed before, and I'm hoping with the end of Season 1 at the start of September, I believe it is, I just hope that they bring out a decent map, just a proper, decent, original map. I mean, my hopes are not going to get them up too high, but I've got a feeling that we're probably going to get let down. But I think that is the biggest gripe I've got with this game, especially as well when you're searching for a game and it says it's connecting, and it's like for example, it's Kaleidoscope. You back out, you search again, it comes up, you back out, you search again. I'd done this the other day probably about 9 or 10 times, and it wouldn't change. I even searched for a different game at a breakthrough, and it was putting me on a different map. As soon as I switched back to like Conquest or something, or Exodus Conquest, it was just putting me straight back in. And I don't know what's up with that, to be honest. I don't know if it's just because there's low player base. I think they should add, like with Portal, you get a server browser. I think they need to add that into the main game as well, not just, you know, custom Portal maps. With custom game modes or whatnot, they need to add it to the actual game so you can choose. Because every now and then as well, I do have issues with like tick rates or ping. Even though my ping's completely fine, I find like I'm sort of jittering or rubber banding game, and it's not even coming up with like a bad ping or anything up in the top left or packet loss at all. And they've got them on Battlefield 5, Battlefield 4, Battlefield 1, they've got them on all the other Battlefield games, just official DICE servers that you can server browse. And even sometimes like if it's just specific maps and rotations or game modes, and you can see how full the games are, how they're getting on, they need to really add something like that into 2042, I believe. But yeah, if you have liked this, it's a slight of rant of video, then please leave a like, comment and subscribe.